Hello, good morning, good day, good evening, my fellow gamers. Welcome to Lockdown Player, a brand new gaming podcast where we'll talk about our favorite first-person shooter franchise, Call of Bloody Duty. Whether you're playing multiplayer or Warzone, there's always something to talk about, and I hope you will enjoy my discussions that I always have regarding this gaming franchise. My name is Tom, also known as the Lanky Soldier, and today, here's the agenda for today's episode, as the first ever episode for this brand new episode, new podcast, whatever you want to call it. Why I'm starting a goddamn podcast about another gaming franchise, I'll talk a little bit about myself, all that kind of stuff, and why I chose Call of Duty to talk about, why I decided to start a new podcast about Call of Duty. Like, we don't have enough Call of Duty podcasts already on Spotify and everywhere else. Well, I'm gonna talk about that later. But for this particular episode, I will pretend that a lot of people, even the returning ones from my other podcast shows, I'll pretend that a lot of you don't know who I am and what I do. So I'll approach this first ever episode like an introduction to myself, explain why I want to start another gaming podcast, and what are my plans for the future regarding this new show and all that kind of stuff. And I hope you will enjoy this new adventure that I'm starting, and I hope you will enjoy everything I have to say, because I have a lot of things to say, and that's why I'm starting this podcast, and I will explain in more detail as we go on for this particular first episode of Lockdown Player. So first, as I do with every podcast I do, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping before we continue to our main topics and all that kind of stuff, because I have to remind everyone that this kind of things exist, so people don't get lost, because I understand new listens and everything, so bear with me, but we have to go through this. A bit of housekeeping. So first, we have time codes available in the description. If you're listening this on Spotify or watch it on YouTube, time codes should be displayed in front of your screen, like directly on the episode. That's the way I checked it worked last time, but if you can't find them on your screen, just go to the description wherever you listen to this episode, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, whatever the case may be, it's all in the description. So there's time codes in the description, and it's there to make your listening experience so much better, because I understand you don't have a whole hour to spare regarding, we all busy people, I understand, we all have lives and everything, and sometimes people don't want to listen a whole hour about something specific. So there's time codes in the description, and you can listen to the specific topic you want, and it's there to make it much easier for you. So use them, use the time codes, they're there for a reason. Social media, of course, I have that, it's also in the description, Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, whatever, it's all in the description, go find it. I'm not a big fan of social media these days for many, many reasons, but I kind of need to have those to be, remind people that I still exist, all that kind of stuff. So if you have any social media, please follow us, follow me, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you can, my name is at the Lanky Soldier. It's literally everywhere. You can find me. It's pretty much everywhere. And in my other gaming podcasts, we have a Google Forms document in the description, and that's basically there for you to give us feedback, send us questions, or just straight up send us insults or compliments about me or the show, whatever the case may be. So in the previous, in other gaming podcasts that I host, we have this Google Forms document, and it's basically there to, remove the friction between me and the listener, because I understand not everyone has a social media, not everyone wants to email us, not everyone has, want to talk about in Spotify, or don't have Patreon, or whatever the case may be. I understand that fully, and my co-host Ray on my other gaming podcast agree with me that we need to remove that friction of people talking to us directly. So what we made is the Google Forms document in the description. I don't think you need a Google account for it to use it. So all you have to do is just go in the description, click on the link, and just type whatever is on your mind regarding the show. Feedback, questions, like I said, insults or compliments, whatever the case may be. You can write to us, and it's like the most easiest thing ever. This is like the most minimal friction we can have regarding people giving us any feedback if they don't want to be, if they don't want to engage us, on social media or Patreon or whatever the case may be. So it's there, use it, just click on the link and just start writing. It's that easy, no problems whatsoever. We've been having a lot of success with that Google Forms document in our other podcast, and people have been sending us feedback and all that kind of stuff, and it's amazing. Thank you guys for sending us that kind of stuff, and it's there for you to use it, so use it. And I know it's very early for you, because as you're a new listener and you just think it's a brand new podcast and all that kind of stuff, what kind of creator I am, what kind of podcast host I am. You probably have no idea what I do, but I do have to mention it. But this is the third podcast series I'm hosting. I have an audience that follows me, but I still need to approach this no one has any idea what kind of person I am, and I have to basically pretend I am nobody. But when it comes to Call of Duty community, yeah, I'm a nobody. That's a fact. Literally nobody. But people do recognize me in the Battlefield community. For example, just a couple of days ago, I replied to some thread on Reddit, and someone literally just goes to me, "Are you the Lanky Soldier?" Which is kind of humbling. I never imagined to be, recognized. And sometimes I get recognized in public. I'm not a big person, but it did happen a couple of times. So that was an interesting moment. But it does happen. Rarely, very rarely, but it does happen. But anyway, off topic. So anyway, I have a Patreon. patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. And why I keep telling you that I have a Patreon? Well, couple reasons. The obvious one, it keeps the show going, so it helps us to finance other future shows and episodes. If it wasn't for Patreon, I doubt I would be starting this new podcast, The Lockdown Player. I doubt I would be starting a new Call of Duty podcast, but here we are. It's thanks to Patreon that we decide. When I say we, it's I do have a couple of people working with me on certain projects. So it's just my natural thing to say we. But first and foremost, every month, if you join the Patreon as a free member, I post monthly updates on what kind of content you can expect every month. If you go through all the monthly updates I've done, we have 95% success rate of not missing deadlines. And the reason we miss deadlines sometimes is because me and my friend Ray, we're not doing this podcasting stuff full time. We still have our real life jobs. Regardless, we still have patrons that are subscribing to us and paying money for content. So it's our responsibility to produce that content that they're paying for. We need to do that. So that's why I post monthly updates on our Patreon, because it just people understand what are the plans for the next months and so on. So people what to expect and that kind of stuff. So anyway, so check out monthly updates, see what's happening this month, and maybe you like it. But anyway, so I have Patreon. We have 3 tiers available to subscribe. For our notice, I've already been talking for 7-8 minutes. So I'm just going to talk about the silver and the gold tiers, because that's the most popular ones we have on Patreon. So I'm just going to mention those and explain what they are. So, silver tier, which is $2, you're getting early access to all future episodes of Lockdown Player, which is this new show, new episodes and everything. All future episodes will be early access on the silver tier, which are also ad-free. So, if you're on Patreon, you will not be hearing this housekeeping bit. You will be straight go to the content that I talk about. So you'll also get early access to the future YouTube videos, and you get early access to Battlefield 1 podcast, which is another podcast about Battlefield. It's literally just $2, and all the reason, the reason it's so cheap, it's because people wanted to support me, but they were not able to commit to full Patreon experience, which I understand. Money is tight, and not everyone is a millionaire, and I'm not even a millionaire, don't get me wrong. I wish I was. Man's living paycheck to paycheck, just saying. But yeah, people want to support, and they don't have the full monetary, what's the word I'm looking for? They can't fully commit to the Patreon experience, but they still want to support. So $2, that's the most I can do. I'm basically not getting anything from it, but it's still support. It's still something. So it's there to give you early access, and it's great. People like it so far. And gold tier, which is the second tier, which is $7, gives you all the previous perks I mentioned before. Early access, all that kind of stuff. All, everything you probably desire mostly. But you also get exclusive podcast series called Live Gaming Gathering Extra. It's a podcast series where me and my friends gather around and we talk about video games, anything that is happening in the gaming industry. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes really serious conversations, sometimes it's chill as hell. But we're having so much fun doing that podcast on our Patreon. It's literally the best episodes we ever do because we're not bound to terms of services on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever, and we can just be ourselves. Originally the podcast was called Live Gaming Gathering, and you could find that podcast on Spotify and iTunes. It's still available if you want to listen. But we started doing that. We started doing Patreon, and which the idea was to create an extra episodes for that particular podcast. That is an expansion of Live Gaming Gathering. But those episodes became so good, and at the same time very time consuming. We could not keep up with the public schedule, and the Battlefield 1 podcast, the podcast I mentioned before, which is about Battlefield, was blowing up in terms of listeners. We made the decision to sunset Live Gaming Gathering on Spotify, iTunes, and all the other audio platforms. Basically, they're still there. The episodes are still there, but we don't make any more public episodes. And we fully focused on Live Gaming Gathering Extra on Patreon. So as it was supposed to be a supplement to the Live Gaming Gathering podcast on the public stuff, the Patreon one kind of took priority for obvious reasons because it paid more, it made more reason. We were making better episodes there because there was a monetary value to make some good episodes, and that's kind of what happened. And I think we made the right decision, judging by the support we've been getting. It's not a huge thing, but we just evolve. As content creators, we have to be evolving as time changes, the landscape changes, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's one of those things that you have to just go with it. And on top of that, you also be getting certain videos that are longer than any videos I post on YouTube, because I have videos half an hour long, but on Patreon they're an hour long because there's a lot of missing scenes, a lot of extra content, all that kind of stuff. And if you're not sure about supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/the Lanky Soldier, you have no idea if it's worth it. We offer a free trial for gold tier subscribers, so if you're not sure about it, you can always have a free trial week, see how it goes. Because we believe that if we're making some amazing content, we believe that you will stay after that free trial ends. I will not be offering a free trial for anyone if I do not believe that you will not stay with us. I believe our content is worth it. I believe our content is good enough for you to stay with us. And that's why I offer a free trial, because I know it's good enough. But I understand you want to know and see what's happening first before you commit financially to our Patreon. Fully understand. That's why the free trial is there. Because I believe we make some good stuff and you can actually enjoy the stuff we make. And here's a small clip from our last episode we posted a couple of days ago.
So think of it like Marvel in terms of the movies and the comics. They
oh yeah, there's a bit, yeah.
That's the best way in order to think about it as far as the Fallout TV show goes. Think of it like the Fallout games are the Marvel comics, okay, and the Fallout TV shows have the potential in order to just be the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I know some people are going to groan and be like, "Oh, fucking Cinematic Universe bullshit." But Fallout has a really good potential in order to do really well with that. If they make this show really well and establish that this is its own thing, completely devoid of the video games, other than the fact that the factions existing and some events being plucked out because they need to be plucked out for the sake of the narrative and world building and shit. I could see that working well and doing well. There's so many vaults out there. You could do a TV show entirely in a fucking vault.
Patreon.com/the Lanky Soldier. Right. Alright, my fellow gamers, my fellow sweatlords, my casuals, my homies, my female friends, and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about Call of Duty. This is a pilot episode. This is mostly gonna be about me as a Call of Duty player, what Call of Duty represents to me, why is my relationship with Call of Duty, and why I want to start a Call of Duty podcast to begin with. So, okay, who am I? And I can already tell you, some of you are gonna be mad if you're a hardcore Call of Duty player, because there's a lot of things I will say that you're probably gonna be like, why the hell I have to listen to him, or why I have to listen to this guy talking about Call of Duty when he did that. Anyway, let's go. Let's see how it goes. Alright, so my name is Tom, aka the Lanky Soldier. I have a YouTube channel with 10,000... Yeah, I can't even speak. Sorry guys, I need to have a drink because, like I said, I usually have friends hosting podcasts with me, but I'm by myself because there's a lot of reasons. I will explain now why I'm hosting the podcast by myself. I talked on the Patreon episodes, but it's all me. There's the reason why the podcast is literally called the Lockdown Player, as a singular player, and I'll explain why. First, I need to have a sip of water. Okay, we're good. So, I have a YouTube channel called the Lanky Soldier, and I have 10,000k subscribers, and my gaming career basically started with PlayStation 1. As I got older, I finally played my proper first-person shooter, and it was not Call of Duty, it was Battlefield 2. Did not like it that much, honestly. Then I moved to 2142, Battlefield 2142. I liked that a bit more, maybe because the setting was different, futuristic and everything. Maybe that's why I liked that about. But I finally played Call of Duty after that. World War, that was my first COD. Then Modern Warfare original series. Really, really loved the original Modern Warfare series. Then I moved to Battlefield 3. And since then, I became a Battlefield player. Like, my whole gaming career, my whole YouTube channel was created on the foundation that is Battlefield. My whole YouTube channel literally was based on Battlefield. And I managed to get about 7 million views from making cinematic trailers for Battlefield games, which was used sometimes in Electronic Arts marketing materials. I got invited to a couple of game reveals like Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. I got invited to Los Angeles and visited DICE studios. At one point, I was even asked if I like to work at DICE, And believe me, it was serious discussion. It was seriously discussed. And all I had to do was just to sort my paperwork and legally apply. But I decided not to because it will be at Los Angeles. I did not find it comfortable living in Los Angeles. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I was certain people were discussing to me like, hey, you should work here because we see the talent you have and everything. And that was really humbling experience. I'm glad that they recognize that I can do certain stuff, but my fear was always like the way the gaming industry was, even back then. It's like, even though they're saying I have the talent and everything to do the job I required to do, but I really want to get a job at any gaming studio if I knew I can do the job perfectly with no problems, and I would not leave 6 months later or something like that, whatever the case may be. But anyway, that's history. That's not important. Back on my gaming history, I also, sorry if you hear something in the background happening, like a gate opening or a plane flying above my head or something like that. I live in London, and sometimes some random sounds get picked up, so I can't really do anything about it, so I'm sorry. So I dabbled in Call of Duty in between, as I was playing all the Battlefield games, literally living Battlefield all the time. I dabbled in Call of Duty games after the original Modern Warfare series, but back then I thought Battlefield was so good, Battlefield games was so good, and Call of Duty was really shallow to me. Nothing about Call of Duty was good to me, nothing worked. Graphics were terrible, controls were terrible, nothing was good. Everything that Call of Duty did, to me back then, Battlefield did so much better. And that's why I never really played Call of Duty games since the original Modern Warfare games. I was invested in the marketing material, like any other person. I enjoy the trailers or that kind of stuff. Sometimes I play the games, but I play them for 2 hours maximum, and I just did not enjoy them whatsoever. Call of Duty back then was, even though selling millions and everything, it's a juggernaut of a franchise, but I just did not enjoy their games. I'm sorry, the games back then was so terrible to me. Nothing was good about them. And Black Ops 4 was the absolute joke to me. And that Battle Royale version known as Blackout, I did play Blackout for a little bit. My god, that was not fun. I am so sorry, guys, if you're a really big Blackout fan and a Black Ops fan or the original Call of Duty fan, whatever the case may be. I'm sorry, I really did not have fun with those versions of Call of Duty. I did not have what the hell I'm talking about. Sorry. I did not have fun with Black Ops 1, 2, 3, 4. Definitely not. In Advanced Warfare, you know what? Advanced Warfare I kind of maybe liked. It was actually pretty okay. Infinite Warfare, I like the aesthetics of it, but again, it's the same Call of Duty, and Infinite Warfare came out at the same time when Titanfall 2 came out. Would I rather play Titanfall 2 or Infinite Warfare? Titanfall 2, any day. But yeah, I really did not enjoy Call of Duty back then. Until Modern Warfare 2.19. Modern Warfare 2.19 was such a what do you call it? Such a moment in history in the gaming world. Like, that game basically, regardless what we think about Modern Warfare, I will talk about the next in a second, but whatever. Modern Warfare 2.19 was such a game, such a historic game. I remember reading leaks about the game before it was announced. You know, who's been working on the game, like certain people that worked on Titanfall were literally moved to Infinity Ward to work on Modern Warfare 2.19. They were cooking something. There were leaks coming out, and everything is like, oh, this sounds really good and interesting. Is this the year when Call of Duty is gonna turn around and make it into a legitimate, serious, good franchise? Even though it's making millions, but you know what I mean. You know, I was reading leaks about it. I heard rumors about the game and everything before it was announced, and then they showed the trailers. They dropped the alpha, and you know, the 2-on-2 gunfight. I was hooked. I was already hooked by just reading the leaks, with the leaks and everything. It was like, oh wow, I will need to buy this game and play it properly. And after playing the gunfight, alpha that was on PlayStation, oh my god. I'm a PC player, by the way, but I had to literally borrow my brother's PlayStation 4 so I can just play the Modern Warfare 2.19 alpha that was on PlayStation, and it was a 2-on-2 gunfight mode. My god, I was hooked instantly. Controls were amazing. Movement was amazing. Graphics were amazing. The technological achievement was there. That basically pushed me away from Battlefield. And Battlefield back then, when Modern Warfare 2.19 was basically ramping up with its marketing, was in a really bad spot. We had Battlefield 5 back then, and it was not going well. I think they were right at the end about announcing that they're ending support for that game. But whatever the case may be, Battlefield was not doing great back then. I mean, it's kind of funny now that with 2042 it's not doing great, but that's a different story. Modern Warfare 2.19 as a game, that was before Warzone was even announced. That was such a amazing game that pushed everyone to play it. There's a reason why it's the best selling game they ever had. I don't know if Modern Warfare 2 beat that by now, but 2.19 back then was revolutionary. As a Call of Duty game, it stepped up so much in every department. It was insane not to play that game, at least for a little bit. It's just insane. Now, of course, the maps were a bit questionable, but the problem is people played Modern Warfare 2.19 like it was the old COD. TDM, kill confirmed, and that kind of stuff. You have to understand, sorry, that was my Discord notification. You have to understand, those maps worked really, really well with objective game modes. So you have your hardpoint, headquarters, domination, all that kind of stuff. Or search and destroy. Amazing maps for those kind of game modes. But that's the problem with people think the game was too slow, or maps were shit. Don't get me wrong, some of the maps were shit. Like Enquiries Bridge, that was an absolute shit map. But as time went on, DLCs, free maps were coming out with season passes and everything. The maps were actually really good. Really good. So it got better with time. Ground War was actually pretty amazing. It was not Battlefield. Don't get me wrong. I know what they tried to do. They tried to push they tried to get the Battlefield audience on their side because they knew Battlefield was not doing great, and so we need to make a Ground War mode, which made sense back then. And Ground War was amazing. It's not Conquest from Battlefield, not even close, but it was a good attempt. It was a good attempt on something, bigger than your typical 6-on-6 or 10-on-10 experience. And Call of Duty actually grew. It's not a 6-on-6 game anymore. I think 10-on-10 is the best medium for Call of Duty these days, but that's a different talk for another day. Modern Warfare 2.19 was basically so freaking good. I'm sorry, like I love the characters, I love the gunplay, I love the movement, I loved everything about the game so much. It made me into a Call of Duty fanboy again. Like all the Modern Warfare, the good vibes I had with the original series. These are the new vibes that I've been looking for God knows how long. Modern Warfare 219 was so good. To this day, I'll still praise it to what it did to the gaming industry because it was such a good game. When it comes to like a couple of months later, Warzone experience, when finally Warzone came out, they actually came out during the lockdown. People say that Warzone was successful because of the lockdown. No. I can tell you right now, after we had, 3, 4, 5 years of 5? 4 years of Call of Duty Warzone. Let me tell you right now, after playing Caldera, after playing Al Mazrah, after playing Urzikstan, after, Rebirth Island and Wondels and your Ashika Islands, Fortune's Keep, I can tell you right now, that was the best Battle Royale experience we ever had. And it's not nostalgia speaking, it's just straight facts. I was not expecting Warzone to be amazing. The last thing I want is like, oh, another Battle Royale, who the freaking cares? Oh no, it was amazing. Because I still play Fortnite with my girlfriend and everything, and I was like, oh, another Battle Royale. I was not a fan of PUBG. I did not like PUBG. But as time went on, like, Warzone came out and we played Warzone. I'm like, oh, this is actually really fun. This is really engaging, really stressful in a good way. This was amazing. Like, and since then I became a Warzone player. It's just since then I was like, oh, so Call of Duty can be good. Call of Duty can be amazing and all that stuff. Like Modern Warfare 2019 was already amazing by itself, but Warzone was something that's just like mind blown. It was a battle royale, but it was a Call of Duty battle royale. It was simple. It was easy to understand. It wasn't too complicated, and that's why it made it so fun. That's why it made it so fun. It was like it was just so good. And I keep saying that I was saying back then that Modern Warfare 219 was the perfect blueprint to keep the game going for a couple of more years until we have the next Modern Warfare game, or whatever the case may be. We didn't need another Call of Duty for next year. We didn't need that. We just didn't. And because we got Warzone and we kept with the seasons and everything, and I can tell you right now, I remember when Black Ops Cold War was announced, I was really mad for many reasons, because I was just thinking, why? Why do you want to... People asking for Call of Duty to take a break for many, many years now. And this Modern Warfare 2019 was like the perfect opportunity for the franchise to take a break and just keep going. And when Black Ops Cold War was announced, I was really mad, thinking, why are you wasting all this potential for another short-term gain? And then, of course, we saw the footage of Black Ops Cold War. It was garbage. I'm sorry, did not play well. Nothing interesting about it. It was low-effort Call of Duty. I know the history, how the game was made. Yes, I know the history. I know the leaks. Don't worry. I know the history. It was a very quick job by Treyarch because Sledgehammer Games and Raven could not agree on something. I know the history. I know the development history. I know that. Still doesn't change the point is that this game should not have been released in the first place. And how it was shoehorned into Warzone pissed me off so much. And I remember when Season 6 was coming to an end on Modern Warfare 2019, there was no announcement, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. The season got extended, then quietly unreleased and ended. Like, there was no... there was nothing. There was no update, no official confirmation. We just pretended Modern Warfare 2019 never existed. That was such a shitty move by Activision and Infinity Ward or whoever made the decision to pretend it never existed. And it's just like, yeah, Season 6 is done, Cold War by Cold War. It was so bad. were those seasons for Warzone were okay? Yeah, they were fine. It's like still not happy about it. Since then, I think that's what the Warzone went a bit downhill. It started to go downhill because you kind of lose. You try to shoehorn something that was not supposed to be there in the first place. But anyway, that's a different story for another day. Then, of course, Vanguard. I'm not going to talk about Vanguard much because I don't really care about Vanguard. Never cared. Caldera. My least favorite Battle Royale map, for sure. Then we go to Modern Warfare 2. Oh my god, Modern Warfare 2 was such a questionable game to deal with. I'm not gonna just straight up hate it. I did not hate it, but I disliked it for many reasons. I disliked how the menus looked. I disliked how the game felt. I disliked a lot of things about it. I did not hate it, but it just felt like a fresh new start for no freaking reason, and that's why I was not happy with Modern Warfare 2. Then, of course, we talk about Warzone. They try to go, they rebuild the engine, they rebuild the game, they rebuild the engine because they knew they can't add more games into the Warzone 1 client. It was just getting too big and not optimized and all that kind of stuff. I fully get that. They needed a clean start, a clean slate with Modern Warfare 2, start Warzone 2.0 and all that kind of stuff. I get that. But certain decisions they made regarding that game, they're still backtracking them even to this day. The plates, the movement, the loadouts, all that kind of stuff. Modern Warfare 2 as a multiplayer game and as a Warzone game, oh my god, it was really rough. One of the good things, though, that they finally added ranked mode to Al Mazrah. So that was a nice thing. I really like that. It made Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2.0 more enjoyable because of ranked. Of course, after all the changes they did before, to backtrack on the changes, But ranked mode BR was a really fun experience. I managed to reach Diamond. I want to go higher, but it was a bit difficult for many reasons, because life and all that kind of stuff. I'm just happy to stay in Diamond, and if I really want to go, Crimson or Iridescent, I'll need to find, I will need to talk to my friends and commit and all that kind of stuff, so maybe we can actually push for that. But at the moment, there's no ranked BR. We all have Resurgence ranked, and I'm not a fan of Resurgence. I made a video on my YouTube channel about Resurgence, about ranked Resurgence, and how to decide to go with ranked experience for that. I'm not happy. I think it's a terrible experience. The mode itself is not competitive. It's not good. It's just... And the reason I only play ranked Resurgence because that's the only ranked mode we have in Warzone right now. And that's the only reason. Because I presume that, at least I'm guessing, all the ranks that we got in ranked Resurgence in Modern Warfare 3 and current Warzone will transfer to ranked Battle Royale when ranked Battle Royale will finally come out. Will it be Season 4 or Season 5? God fucking knows. I have a feeling that all the ranks will transfer. I'm guessing. If they don't, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But anyway, I made a video on YouTube, and maybe you can watch it, have a look, see if you think the same way as I think. Ranked Resurgence is not good. Regarding Modern Warfare 3, I liked it, but felt shallow in a sense. You can clearly tell this was Modern Warfare 2 2.0, or whatever you want to call it. Modern Warfare 2. It's fine. But I enjoy Modern Warfare 3 on so many levels, because I think the maps are fine. I think the maps are great. The controls great, and because we transferred all content from Modern Warfare 2 to Modern Warfare 3, made it more fun because we have all our skins, our blueprints, our guns, and everything. It's more fun to experiment now with all the kind of stuff regarding Call of Duty. That's what I think what's missing, and that's why I think people enjoy Modern Warfare 3 more than they enjoy Modern Warfare 2 or 19 in that matter. It's because all the stuff we have carry over. It doesn't feel like you're starting from scratch, and now you can explore all this new content, new maps, and with all your old content, it's great. And of course we have Warzone that makes it more fun and so on, even though we don't have ranked Battle Royale, but it's still. And Uzbekistan as a map, I think, is a good map. Not great. it has its problems, but it's better than Caldera. And I'm actually leaning. I would love to play Al Mazrah with these new mechanics of Modern Warfare 3. I love to play Al Mazrah. People hated Al Mazrah for many reasons, but I don't think they understand why they're hating on Al Mazrah. Al Mazrah was really good map, but the problem was it was stuck. It was released in a period when the game was not in a good state. Now Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone in general is in a good state. Having Al Mazrah back would be really, really fun, and I would love to play it. Because I actually think Al Mazrah is a bit bad in Urzikstan. It just is, I think so. Ooh, sorry, let me have a drink of water. Okay. So that's a bit of my history, like, with Call of Duty. Like, the reason I called this podcast The Lockdown Gamer is because I was thinking, what kind of name I can have for the podcast? Because I have a lot of things to talk about Call of Duty, but I was just thinking, what kind of name I can have? And I'm just thinking, I started to play Call of Duty again since the lockdown, and in certain sense, people will find that, especially the experienced Call of Duty players, the hardcore Call of Duty players that played every Call of Duty and so on, they'll probably just think it is like an insult. Oh, you're just a lockdown player. What do you know? You don't know the good times of Call of Duty and everything. See, I was like that like 10 years ago or whatever with Battlefield. It's like, what do you know about good Battlefield times? Like, oh, you start playing a Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5. Well, fuck you. You don't know how great Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 was. Your opinions are valid. Like, at one point, it maybe was like that, but as time went on, I grew up, I matured, and I'm like, listen, fam, these franchises need new players, and because new players are joining and they're having fun, that's all that matters, because it's just a video game, bloody hell. If more people want to play Battlefield, great, I will gladly have them in my squad and guide them to enjoy the Battlefield game. Same with Call of Duty. If someone wants to play Call of Duty with me and they never play Call of Duty in their life, I will guide them so much to make sure they have a really amazing experience, because it's video games. Video games are meant to be fun. I'm not gonna... And if a new player or whatever wants to give feedback about something, that's great. Doesn't mean we have to act on that feedback, of course. Also, we're not developers. But all opinions matter as long as they're not stupid opinions. As long as it's a reasonable opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. And Lockdown Player, it might actually trigger some, like when they go on Spotify, look for a Call of Duty podcast, it might trigger their brain a little bit like, Lockdown Player, oh, this player clearly will start playing Warzone, let me listen and hate listen to him and then tell him what kind of piece of shit he is for saying a wrong opinion about Call of Duty. I kind of expect that. That was kind of the idea I was going with the name. So people kind of get emotionally invested, like, oh, what is this idiot want to say? Like, so let's see how it goes. And also, the reason I want to start a Call of Duty podcast, I talked about my Patreon, patreon.com/Lanky Soldier. I talked one of the episodes there where I was thinking making a Call of Duty podcast, and that was like 6-7 months ago, before Modern Warfare 3 came out. I was thinking, I really want to talk about Call of Duty, and I asked my friends around if any of them wants to join me on this, conversation, discussions, whatever you want to call it, and let's talk about Call of Duty on a weekly, monthly basis, whatever the case may be, and let's talk about it, because we played a lot of COD. Why are you beeping outside when I'm recording every freaking time? Anyway, I was like, let's talk about Call of Duty. And I realized, like, whatever they think about Call of Duty these days, and I talked about starting a new show and everything. I talked about my Patreon about to my friend, and I'm just like, I can't rely on people to help me all the time, because I can't pay them, to be on a podcast. It will be a different story. But also, it's one of those things that I kind of need to focus, build this up myself. If people like what I want to say about Call of Duty and people listen what I have to say about Call of Duty, it's fine. Then I'll invite more people, and maybe we'll encourage them to join on the conversation. Maybe invite other people that want to talk about Call of Duty. For example, we had guests, on the Battlefield 1 podcast about, we had guests. We had YouTubers, we had, personalities and all that kind of stuff talk about Battlefield. I see no reason why we couldn't do that for Call of Duty. Same thing. I know some people and I will gladly invite them and see if they want to talk about it, which is fine. But I realized I need to build this up from the ground up myself instead of relying on people, because I had so many situations where like, oh, we're about to record, but someone didn't show up because reasons, or whatever the case. I'm not gonna talk about it now because it's some of the personal things that I don't want to talk about now. But I want to talk about Call of Duty. And I don't want to wait for anyone else for them to be available to talk about Call of Duty. I want to talk about it. I want to build this audience, maybe they think maybe the same way I do. Or maybe they want to tell me a different opinion. I may be like, you know what, you're right. I was wrong, you were right. That's the thing about podcast. The reason I host podcasts in the first place is because I want to start conversations about something. The reason why we have patreon.com/the Lanky Soldier, LGG extra episodes, those podcasts, why we have that podcast in exclusive on Patreon is because we want to talk about something that we care about. While we have a Battlefield 1 podcast is because we want to talk about Battlefield that is never discussed anywhere else. And the same thing with Call of Duty. When I go on Spotify, I listen to many different Call of Duty podcasts. A lot of them are comparative based, and maybe one of them is a very casual Call of Duty podcast, and the other one is a brand new podcast that just came up, and I listened to them too. And I was like thinking, so the brand new Call of Duty podcast that just came out on Spotify was thinking exactly the same thing I was thinking 6 months ago, that there's no other podcast except like this one podcast, and other ones are focused on comparative, And I love that one casual podcast. I'm a patron on the podcast because I really enjoy their content. I enjoy their discussions. But as I listened to all the podcasts, I realized, well, now them are literally the podcast that is a nice middle ground between a sweatlord and a casual player. And I'm so sorry if you hear a truck in the background. I just can't do anything about it. So there's no podcast that finds a nice middle ground between a casual and a sweatlord. I consider myself a sweatlord, but I don't consider myself to be a sweatlord that I literally sweat buckets. I'm more like on the casual side of sweatlord, There's no nice middle ground between. And sometimes when I listen to other Call of Duty podcasts, I just think to them like, you think about this franchise from a customer, consumer point of view. I look at stuff as a artist, because like I said, I want to make video games back in the day. I play video games because I enjoy the artistic side of these video games. But I'm a sweat at the same time. I love to grind rank in ranked. I love ranked battle royale. I hate ranked resurgence, but I still, through the sheer power of will, I still do my best to finish as high as possible in the ranking system, whatever you want to call it. If I have to play against Iridescent players and Crimson players to reach rank, it's fine. I'll do that. I'll commit because that's what I enjoy most. I always enjoyed a good competitive experience. But at the same time, I'm an artist myself. I did a lot of art in my, I still do art, like I said, I did cinematic trailers. I do design sometimes, I get artists come in with commission like, oh, I can redesign your YouTube channel and everything. No. I designed that myself. I design everything myself. I don't want to pay anyone to redesign something for me because I'm a content creator. No, I design everything myself. Everything I do, whether it be Patreon, YouTube, podcasting, I do this on my own. I do this in my own way. I don't pay anyone for me, to help me with. Everything I do is myself. So when I play video games, when I play Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff, people look like, oh, gunplay sucks or whatever. Yeah, it's a fair argument and everything. But I look, for example, no one, for example, talks about, oh, this map is shit. But why is it shit? I want to discuss why the map is shit. I want to discuss, people like, oh, the map looks visually terrible. Does it look visually terrible? I think it looks amazing, You'll have to think of why they decide to go with that color palette for that map. Why the sun is in this direction. Why this or that kind of stuff. Like, when game developers are making games, when they're making maps or whatever the case may be, any content for any video game, there's no developer I know that just wants to say, like, you know what, I'll just make shit. No game developer wants to make shit content or shit games. It's just no game developer that exists unless they literally got the job because not based on merit. If people are artists, as they really are, no artist just wants to make shit artwork. They don't want to make shit art. So when I hear other Call of Duty podcasts saying, "Oh, this map looks like shit," I'm like, does it though? Or you just hate the specific thing because and this thing with Call of Duty players majority in general, it's one of those things that they bitch about something that is shit, but they can't explain why it's shit. And sometimes they're just like, we want sunny maps. Do you really want all maps to be sunny and the same color palette and everything? Do you want the same? No, you don't. You might disagree saying like, oh, you're wrong. I want all the maps to be sunny and clear and 3-lane and everything. Like, trust me, you don't. Trust me. You will be bored with that game very, very quickly. And do not, Call of Duty is hitting that stage in its life cycle where people expect the game to look realistically good, the cosmetics to look realistically good and all that kind of stuff. It's a AAA shooter that costs $70. Even though Warzone is free, you still expect that quality. If you gave Call of Duty fan base, those hardcore players, the rights to make any Call of Duty they want, I can assure it will be the most bland Call of Duty they could ever make because they don't know what they want. That's what it is. One of the podcasts I remember said, sometimes players don't know what they want. That is indeed true. We have the same problem in Battlefield. We have the same problem in other different games. It's just people. It's just people being people. It's just the way people are. And that's the way I want to approach the Call of Duty podcasting. I want to discuss something that is usually not being discussed in other podcasts, And sometimes, I'm not a fan of, it's like, oh, certain developers don't have QA or something like that. It's the thing. It's not that developers don't do QA or something like that. T studios have QA and they work really hard, really, really hard. But you have to understand how QA, for example, works. Like your typical, the lowest QA, the lowest tier of quality assurance people working on these games. They find bugs, and they're really good at finding bugs. The problem is QA is not the one that fixed the game. It's the developers, the people up top, fix those games. So what usually happens with so many bugs happening in every release with every game, and it's not only Call of Duty. AAA games are very complicated these days. There's a lot of bugs. None of them are perfect. So QA finds the bugs, but developers have to fix those bugs because the QA gives the list and explains what's the bug. But because we have a limited number of developers working on these games, because that's a different story for another day, certain bugs takes priority. And the reason they take priority is because it's easy to fix it, or they found a reason why it's bugged. Just because you found a bug doesn't mean that developers know how to fix it. You need to find the reason why that bug happens. You need to replicate that bug all the time. And if you can replicate the bug, that means you can fix it. So certain bugs that I remember some of the podcasts going, how do you fix this but you don't fix this? Well, one is easily, you can replicate that bug all the time, and it's easily fixable. But other bug that people are complaining about is happening, why is that not fixed? Well, no one found a way to replicate that bug, and because you can't replicate the bug, you can't really fix it, because you're not gonna fix the problem. You're just gonna waste time on something that is not fixed, And then, sorry, my phone just beeped. and that's not gonna fix the problem. You see what I mean? QA finds the bugs and it gives you the list how to fix those bugs, but developer itself needs to fix the bug. So that's why, like, when I listen to those Call of Duty podcasts, like, QA is shit. It's not the QA. You have to. So that's what pisses me off. Like, certain people like host these podcasts for many, many years. All these Call of Duty podcasts, and they still have no idea how development works. And sorry about the plane flying above my head. Like I said, living in London, it just happens. And that's the thing. I'm kind of like angry sometimes when I listen to these podcasts, and they have no idea how development works. You would imagine when you host a Call of Duty podcast or any other gaming podcast, you would imagine that you would do a bit of research, or someone would contact you or talk about, like, oh, the reason this happens, this and this, is because of that. Or you Google how, you do something, you do a bit of research why stuff like that happens. And when you start to realize why it happens, suddenly you have a different perspective and you have a different opinion, like, oh, the reason this bug exists is because this, and we can't fix it because of that. Whatever the case may be. And then now, majority of them don't do the research necessary to educate themselves of why stuff like this happens. And that's the thing I want to bring when it comes to Call of Duty podcasting. I want to bring that different perspective that other podcasts don't offer. Like my YouTube videos, when I make a YouTube video about any game, whether it be Battlefield, Call of Duty, or let's say a game called World War III, when I make videos about those games, I want to talk about those games in a different perspective that people don't even think about. I want to explore a bit deeper than just like the surface level. Everyone can do the surface levels. Like, I see a lot of YouTubers do the surface level analysis of a game, but that means nothing in the end. It's just noise at the end. It's just a 10-minute noise for you to listen or watch while you eat your food or your dinner. That's not it. Like, when I make a video, I want you to understand what are we talking about. I want to come out of my videos and just think about, like, I learned something today. That's what I want. And that's what I want to achieve with this Call of Duty podcast, with Lockdown Player. I want us to gain a different perspective about this franchise. Whether it be positive or negative. That's my idea. That's why I rebooted Battlefield 1 podcast regarding Battlefield. The reason I decided to do a Battlefield podcast again when Battlefield 2042 is not doing great, the reason I want to reboot the podcast again is because no one was talking about certain stuff that needs to be discussed. Why Battlefield is shit? We don't know. Well, let me explain why it's shit. And when they do explain why it's shit, like, okay, but why is this thing that way and not the other way? And then we try to discuss and find the solution to the problem, whatever the case may be. People will say, the Battlefield 2042 story is shit. Because, is either no single player or whatever the case may be. No, there's many reasons why the story is garbage in 2042. Or why the gunplay is like that. Like, for example, they added visual recoil in 2042 just recently to make the guns more punchy, more interesting. And of course, if you've been playing Call of Duty for a really long time, you know what happened in Modern Warfare 2. You know what happened with Warzone 2. That kind of stuff. Visual recoil. And then Modern Warfare 3 is basically removing all that visual recoil as much as they can to make sure the game, the guns are very easy to use, that PC players can compete against, aim assist, all that kind of stuff. Like, they backtrack in it. Like, in Battlefield, adding visual recoil to their guns because they want to make the guns feel more punchy or stronger or whatever. When the bigger problem is, the guns in Battlefield 2042 are not fun to use because they're badly animated. They don't feel great. It's just like the foundation is not there to make the guns fun. So adding visual recoil is not fixing that problem. And that's the same with Call of Duty. People look at the surface level. Oh, this is garbage, but they never look at why it's garbage. Why certain feature or certain mechanic or certain map is bad. They never really look at the bigger picture or like to the side or whatever. They don't look at what's the narrative here. What's the context. And that's why sometimes when I listen to Call of Duty podcast, my blood boils when I hear something that's really factually wrong, and it just pisses me off. And sometimes they don't want to listen, which is fair. It's their show, their podcast, whatever. I understand that, and it's just. But that's the thing I want to talk about. I want something that is, context, like actual context, to understand the bigger problem here. But yeah, that's what I want to achieve with this Call of Duty podcast. I want us to have a discussion about the games, about the franchise, something that is deeper than just, on a surface level. And I hope whoever's listening, if you're still listening to now, I hope. Oh my god, that is one loud plane. Holy crap! I might as well have a sip of water. So if you're still listening for 55 minutes now, I hope you understand my point of view, what I want to achieve with this podcast, what I try to do in the future with this podcast, and I hope you enjoying the discussion I have about this franchise, because honestly, I am a Call of Duty player now. No matter how much I love Battlefield, no matter how much I love, their franchise and how much it made me into the content creator I am, Battlefield basically forged me into a person I am today. But Call of Duty evolved that, what do you call it? Experience in me. I don't know. It basically evolved me as a person. Battlefield created me, and Call of Duty evolved me. And since 2019, with Modern Warfare 2019 and Call of Duty Warzone, that basically made me into a person I am today, in the way I look at, different gaming franchises. I love Call of Duty. I love Call of Duty for different reasons. I dislike it for other reasons. But I think Call of Duty is a really good franchise right now, in a really good foundation to make something amazing. And Microsoft, what Activision, I don't want to say, hey, monopolies are great and all that kind of stuff, even though it's not monopolies, whatever. I want to believe that Microsoft acquiring Activision might be a good thing for many gamers for many different reasons. Maybe we can free up some studios. Maybe Infinity Ward can make something else than Call of Duty. Because they are a talented bunch. They are really a talented Call of Duty developers, and maybe they want to make something else that is not Call of Duty. Or whatever the case may be. I think every studio that Activision owns, they're really good at something specific, and when they work together to make something amazing, it's beautiful. It's the best Call of Duty experience ever, because someone makes the map, and someone makes the mechanics, someone makes the story, someone makes the characters, whatever the case may be. When all studios work together and make something amazing, with compromises and everything, it can be a really amazing experience and amazing video game. We'll see how Call of Duty Call of Duty Gulf War will do this year. This is gonna be interesting. It's gonna be one of the first games gonna be on Game Pass, so that's really interesting. I don't know. We'll see. It's just, but yeah, that's the thing. I love Call of Duty. I really love Call of Duty. But the reason I want to start a Call of Duty podcast is because I have a lot of things to say about Call of Duty, because there's a lot of things I do not enjoy about it, and there's a lot of things I do enjoy. And I want to talk about all of it, just all of it, from a different perspective that people don't usually discuss. Like, people talk about metas, all that kind of stuff. I'm not really into that kind of, I just Google if I really want to be into metas or everything, I just Google what's the best meta, and that's it, done. There's no discussion, I don't care, it's just stats, it's just number stats. Sometimes stats don't mean everything, sometimes gun feels better than the other, even though the stats say otherwise. Whatever. It's a first-person shooter, and that's the point. You have to explore how the gun feels for you, how it makes you feel. Does it make you a better player, all that kind of stuff. I don't really care about metas. It's just I don't think it's such an important thing. It's important, but it's definitely not that important on a grand scale of, things. Maps and all that kind of stuff, I do want to review all of it. I want to review, the premise of the game and so on, because like I said, game developers don't want to talk about, they don't want to make shit games. They don't want to. They just don't. So I want to understand when they don't want to make a shit game, but somehow still make shit. I want to understand why they made shit, why that happened, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love Call of Duty. You can call me a lockdown player, you can insult me, you can call me names, whatever. It's fine. I don't care. I was kind of going for that reaction anyway. So if I got that reaction, that means I did something right. And if I did something right, that means my intuition was right. So yeah, I'm gonna end the podcast now here. I just talked a little bit about myself, who I am. You can know more about me in my Patreon, because I talked about myself many times. You can explore my YouTube channel at the Lanky Soldier. The Lanky Soldier is basically error. If you find someone called the Lanky Soldier, it's 100% me. I doubt it's gonna be another fake one somewhere. My name is the same everywhere. Thankfully, I managed to save the name as much as I could on every platform, every game, and so on. So that's good. But yeah, that's who I am. I want to talk about Call of Duty. I really enjoy Call of Duty, and I hope you will enjoy the discussions I have for this franchise. It's a pilot episode, just me talking about random shit. Something that came to my mind. I have some notes on my screen, but they're really loosey. Nothing important, nothing too much. And I will try to do this on a weekly basis. I will try to do this because there's a lot of things I need to catch up. If I'm starting a new podcast, there's a lot of things to talk about. Like there's season 3, season 4 is about to come. I want to review the game. I want to talk about the current state of Warzone, all that kind of stuff. So for next week, I'll try to record that episode of me reviewing Modern Warfare 3 as a game. Then the next episode we'll try to do a Warzone, state of Warzone, that kind of stuff, and then we can do like a season 3 reloaded review, whatever the case may be. We'll see. There's a lot of things to talk about, and I hope you will enjoy the discussions I have for you to listen. Hopefully, I hope you will enjoy the discussions I have. And on that note, I will end the podcast here. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for listening to this first ever pilot episode of Lockdown Player. My name is Tom, aka the Lanky Soldier. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever the case may be. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thelankysoldier, where we have exclusive episodes, exclusive behind the scenes, exclusive stuff, wherever the case may be. We have a lot of things to offer, and if you're not sure about supporting us originally, you can use a free trial, check our content, see if you like it, and if you do, I believe you will stay. I believe we make some amazing stuff, and you will stay and will listen to us. And that's kind of it. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for everything, Thank you for spending your time, the whole hour with me. I really, really appreciate it. Even if you don't spend a whole hour, even if you just listen to like 10 minutes of it, it's fine. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your attention. And I hope I will see you in the next episode. And don't forget to give me feedback or questions or whatever at that document that is in the description, that Google document. Just let me know. Maybe you want a specific. Speaking of, if you have a specific idea how you want to hear this podcast, like maybe like what's the structure of the podcast you want to be, whatever the case may be, do let me know. Write in that document what you want to hear, what you want to listen. Do let me know, and I'll do my best to accommodate you and your wishes to make this listening experience so much better for you. And that's gonna it. So, thank you guys for listening. I'll see you in Warzone. Hopefully, we shoot each other in the face. And that's gonna it. So, thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.